And in another equally strong message, US President Donald Trump has sharply criticized NATO, calling its refusal to join the ongoing military operation against Iran a very foolish mistake. Trump said most NATO allies had been informed about the campaign, but ultimately chose not to participate militarily, even though they broadly support the joint US-Israel action. Now, posting on social media, Trump claimed allied nations agree that Iran must not be allowed to develop nuclear weapons, yet many are unwilling to commit forces to the battlefield. The US president went further, describing NATO as a one-way street, arguing that the United States spends heavily on security while receiving insufficient support from its partners in return.
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. So I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
Meanwhile, reiterating his stand, French President Emmanuel Macron said France will not take part in any military operation to unblock the Strait of Hormuz, pushing back against remarks by Donald Trump that Paris was willing to help. Macron, in fact, stressed that France is not a party to the ongoing conflict and therefore will not participate in efforts to reopen the strategic waterway while fighting continues. However, Macron said France could support a maritime escort system once the situation stabilizes and major bombing operations stop.
Nous ne sommes pas partie prenante au conflit. Et donc, jamais la France ne prendra part à des opérations.
We are not party to the conflict, and therefore, France will never take part in operations to open or liberate the Strait of Hormuz in the current context. On the other hand, we are convinced that once the situation has calmed down, and I deliberately use this term broadly, once the situation has calmed down, that is to say, once the main bombing has ceased, we are ready, along with other nations, to assume responsibility for the escort system. But it is all political, technical, and obviously with all the actors of maritime transport, with the insurers and operational work that we must build. We have begun exchanges with India, with several other European partners or partners in the region.
Nous avons commencé les échanges avec l'Inde, avec plusieurs autres partenaires européens ou partenaires de la région.